Okay, good morning, everyone.
Good morning, everyone.
My name is Krishnan,
And I'm Sonvi.
and we're going to be the MCs for the day. Hopefully, we will keep it really short because we have a really, really exciting and packed day for you. Firstly, thank you all for coming. This is Dasra's 20th year and 10 years of DPW, which is significant. And we know that there are a lot of new faces, as well as a lot of friendly, familiar faces from all the years for people who have been supporting Dasra and the causes that we believe in. And for that, a big thank you to all of you for being a part of the journey.
So interestingly, the last 20 years have not only been critical for Dasra, but also for the development sector in India. And so this DPW, our conversations are designed to showcase some of the most disruptive milestones of India's development in the last 20 years, as well as those that we expect would be game-changing in the next 10 crucial years of India's development. Dasra also recognizes the significance of aligning India's development efforts with the SDGs 2030, and with that acknowledges the sheer size and audacity of our ambition. The ambition is so critical and so big that it's impossible to achieve it alone, which is why this DPW, we embrace the theme of collaborative action and really invite all development stakeholders to play in tandem so that together we can accelerate India's journey towards sustainable development in the next 10 years.
And over the years, we've also learned at Dasra what probably works better in terms of hosting an event. So we've taken all the feedback. So in this year, just to let you know what kind of groups, what kind of people are in the room. This year we have 40 to 50% representation from NGOs. We have 10 to 20% from individual givers who have been supporting the causes over the years, 10 to 15% from foundations, and about 10% corporate representation. So that's a really nice, healthy mix. The other thing that's interesting is we're doing it in the Royal Opera House. Most years it's been in another venue, mostly in a 5-star. This time we took advantage of this beautiful heritage building in Bombay, and a big thank you to the Royal Opera House for letting us host it here. And we really hope you will all also enjoy it as much as we do. Just to also recap, Dasra Philanthropy Week is a week-long event. So what we're seeing here today and tomorrow is a culmination of a lot of things that have taken place over the week. So very quickly, what has taken place? Yesterday was the final day in the graduation of Dasra's leadership program. It's a program that brings together all the top NGO leaders over the full year. So that's what culminated yesterday. We had an event for one of the programs Dasra also works in, the Adolescent Girls Program, which was in Delhi on Wednesday. That again was bringing together NGOs who have been working in the sector together collaboratively, bringing the causes for adolescent girls to the forefront, yet another critical area. And I think what we're looking forward to over today and tomorrow will be actually trying to align all of these works and all the things that we've been putting our effort in to the forefront for you guys and everybody else, men and women here, to understand what we have to do over the next 10, 20 years.
And with that, I think we'll open the day. We'll go with a welcome note from Ms. Francine Pickup, Resident Representative, UNDP. May I please invite you on stage?
Good morning, everybody. I've never given a speech in a theatre before, but it's really lovely to be here, and I'm really grateful to Dasra for inviting me to speak at this event. When 193 countries agreed to the Sustainable Goals in 2015, it was on the basis that we all had to work together as government, business, philanthropists, non-profit, civil society, and citizens together. And without that multi-stakeholder partnerships to fund, innovate, collaborate around the Sustainable Development Goals, the world will not achieve its promise of the SDGs by 2030. And SDG 17, which is all about the partnerships, the technology, and the innovation, really embodies that spirit of collaboration in the SDGs. it's almost a cliche to say that we've got to work together and we've got to collaborate, but I really want to use the opportunity that I have with you today to give some very concrete examples of why that collaboration is so important. As you all know, India's done a lot and has demonstrated leadership on the SDGs. India was one of the first countries to submit its voluntary report to the high-level panel forum that takes place every July in New York. And the fact that it did that, I think, demonstrates its commitment to transparency, taking the agenda forward, and engagement between the state and civil society on the SDGs. Following that, the government's also issued Niti Aayog, who takes the leadership within the government, launched its SDG index at the end of last year, which was also important because it identifies those indicators that will be monitored. And through the baseline report that some of you may have seen, it sets a basis against which actions will be, including government actions and programs, will be evaluated. So the government's done a lot, and the country's done a lot to really demonstrate its commitment and leadership on SDGs. India's made huge progress in many respects in human development. If you look at the multidimensional poverty index, in the last 10 years between 2005 and 2015, 271 million people were lifted out of poverty. And if you look at the Human Development Index between 1990 and 2017, India's ranking and status has improved by 50% in those years. So India has a lot to be proud of, but clearly there are challenges ahead and a lot remains to be done. And to me, and I've only been here for 8 months, but to me, one of the key challenges that India faces is inequality. And I do think that inequality is at the crux of India's development challenge. To me, it seems like India is almost progressing on two dual tracks. One of phenomenal innovation and growth, and another which of people being left behind. And so I see that challenge of inequality, whether that be inequality between states and regions, or between urban and rural, or between men and women, as the key challenge facing this country as it moves forward in addressing the SDGs. Now, I want to outline for you today 3 of the key reasons why I think it's important that we take that we work together and that we collaborate. And the MCs before me outlined those reasons as well. The first reason why collaboration is so important is because of the complexity of the challenges that we face today. The SDGs are built on a recognition that the challenges we face are more complex, more urgent than ever before. It's not for nothing that they're called the world's hardest ever to-do list. The very interconnectedness of the SDGs requires multidimensional solutions that will bring together different kinds of partners. So instead of framing the challenges of today in terms of linear binaries, we often hear about these linear binaries or trade-offs, if you like, between, for example, economic growth on the one hand and climate action on the other, or between automation on the one hand and jobs, or between equality versus growth. And I think one of the key challenges is to, instead of seeing these things as trade-offs, we have to understand how we can achieve complementarities between these different priorities so that development is truly sustainable. And this cannot be done without a significant departure from and disruptions to business as usual. For instance, UNDP's, and I want to give you an example. One of the projects or programs that I'm most proud of within UNDP is the work that we're doing around waste management and circular economy. And we're working on that in partnership with Hindustan Coca-Cola Beverages, taking a circular economy approach to waste management, recycling and reusing the plastic waste that is generated in our cities. So currently we've just started the project. We're working in 15 cities around the country to be scaled up to 50 cities in the next few years. And the reason why this is not your traditional project, but much more working in a platform approach, which I'm sure many of you are also doing. We have to do away with the old style projects and really look at platforms that can bring different partners together. So this initiative, for example, it brings on the private sector company, the plastic producer. It brings on the technology partner who can offer the innovation in technology in mapping the plastic value chain. It brings on the government, the municipal government who provides the land for these waste management centers to exist. The civil society who works with the waste pickers themselves, who are at the center of what is essentially a social enterprise that puts as much value with the women who are picking up the waste so that they can get more of the profits. So it's that kind of collaborative approach where we recognize the different reasons why all the different partners are involved and ensure that the initiative supports their interests and incentives. A second reason why collaboration is essential is the scale and ambition of the SDGs. We're really going beyond the MDGs to look at issues such as governance, environment, inequality, as I mentioned before, so much bigger than the MDGs were. And then second, of course, is the universality. We're not just talking about developing countries anymore. We're talking about the whole world has to work together to meet the SDGs. So here, the commitment of the private sector in particular cannot be overemphasized. In middle-income countries like India or Indonesia, where I was before, the private sector plays a massive role, perhaps the most important role in defining how development happens. So it's really about working with the private sector if we're going to achieve the SDGs. So I want to give a quick example from the renewable energy sector, which highlights the value of this collaboration. After the Indian government set the ambitious target of generating 100 gigawatts of solar power by 2022, the private sector took advantage of this enabling environment to open up new markets and promote competition and technical advancements. So since then, it's estimated that large solar farms will be able to generate more than 10,000 megawatts of electricity. So reduced prices and the addition of off-grid solar capacity are bringing power to those who don't have it. The private sector also brings critical financing. Now, you've perhaps heard about the $2.5 trillion annual shortfall if we're going to achieve the SDGs. And rather than presenting it as a shortfall, we're very much interested in seeing how the SDGs can be the billion-dollar investment opportunity. So it's estimated that sustainable development models could accelerate growth by 2 to 3 times compared with average GDP growth today over the next 10 to 5 years. And there's a clear imperative to broaden access to quality health. So for example, if we look at healthcare in India, particularly to underserved groups, there's a clear imperative to broaden access to quality healthcare. Indian hospitals perform a fraction of the 2 million heart operations required each year, but affordable healthcare companies such as Narayana Health are really plugging this gap, and we see companies like that have grown tremendously in response. So I'm also encouraged by the increase in collaborative efforts. So I want to acknowledge the work of Safina Hussain and Educate Girls, who have also been working in this innovative finance space, working on actually the first ever development impact bond in India that's bringing education to girls, and really has set a precedent for others, including us in UNDP, for looking more at development impact bonds as ways of channeling investment towards the SDGs. Now, today is International Women's Day, so I have to mention that, which brings me to my third and final reason why collaboration is so important for the SDGs. One of the central tenets of the SDGs is to leave no one behind and to reach the farthest first. Now, women in India are at risk of being left behind, and you know, I don't have to cite all the stats to you, you know it better than I do, but there's a lot of work to be done in terms of gender equality in India. And women don't have, and we're focusing this year in UNDP on women's access to technology. Women don't have access to the technology in the same way that men do. You may be aware that just 30% of internet users in India are women. And there are 114 million more men with telephone handsets than women. And we also know that while girls and women's education enrollment is increasing, women's participation in the workforce is actually decreasing sharply. So if women are to benefit from this fourth industrial revolution and the technology advances that we're seeing today, we have to arm women with better access to technology. If we don't, gender inequality risks increasing. So women are the agents of change. There are plenty of examples in India of how women have led the change for gender equality. And what we need to do is provide them with a conducive environment to do that. So that means making sure that women feel safe, making sure women have access to well-paid work, making sure that they're at the table making decisions, and that they are participating in science and technology. So I've been told to stop already many times, so I won't go on. But I would just like to thank you again and really wish you the best conference over the next few days. Thank you.